Kevin Zay, what is your opinion on anti-theism? I am an agnostic atheist, and I tend to fall into the not caring about your beliefs, but caring about what you do based on those beliefs camp. I have heard from various sources that Gene Roddenberry was an anti-theist, but if that was the case, it sure didn't seem to bleed over into his ideas for Star Trek. Okay, big question. Let's go for a big answer on this one. So, first off, anti-theism, as I understand it, is the idea that not only is there a doubt or a lack of belief in God, but that the belief in God is actually nuts or somewhat insane, or there'd have to be something wrong with you to actually believe in God. And of course, I consulted Wikipedia on this, which gives me two nice quotes. One from the Oxford English Dictionary. An anti-theist is one opposed to belief in the existence of a God. And then there is the Hitchman, Christopher Hitchens, quote here, "I'm not even an atheist so much as I am an anti-theist. I not only maintain that all religions are versions of the same untruth, but I hold that the influence of churches and the effect of religious belief is positively harmful." Okay, so it's not just a matter that the person who holds religious beliefs has something wrong with them, but actually that the entire concept of having a belief in a God or gods is harmful more so than it is beneficial. I don't believe that. I don't fall under that way of thinking at all. Because I've now gone through enough and seen enough over the last few years after coming out of Scientology and associating with people involved in human trafficking, sex trafficking. I mean, really nasty, awful, horrible stuff, right? Slave labor and stuff. And also having gone down some rabbit holes on AA and Narconon and drug rehab and stuff. And criminality, right? People who are hardened criminals and somehow have an epiphany or see the light, have a religious experience of some kind and attribute that to Jesus Christ or to God and turn their lives around, right? In all of these fields or areas of activity and abuse, we see people who are abusers, who are victimizing others, right? Who are truly criminals, who have a religious experience, have a religious epiphany, turn their lives around. And these are people who you know when you are listening and talking with them and interacting with them, and not just, at a surface level, but really get into it, that these are people who do not have the force of will or self-confidence or self-awareness or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm probably stumbling around with these words here even right now, that they needed that belief to turn themselves around. It's not a matter of it's an option for them. It's if they don't have a belief in a higher power, they're not going to be good people. They're not going to be compelled to be good people. They're not going to feel any urgency or need to be a good person. It is the thing that drives their morality. And, if that's where that person's at, who am I to tell them that they're basing their entire system of morality on a lie when they're being good people with it, where they weren't being good people without it? That is a tough question, and it is easy, and I'm sure a lot of you out there right now who are atheists might be writing me off right now as like, well, they don't need that belief in God in order to be good people. No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. They do. Right? I've had those reasons. I've had those conversations. I've had those ideas that you don't have to have this in order to have this. Well, that's great for you. For you, that's true. Not for them. And we project our own needs and wants and desires and fears and terrors and everything else on other people all the time. How could we not? The only way we understand other people is through our own experiences. Empathy is us laying ourselves and them, as like a template or something. I mean, there's this like process where you can sort of get the idea of what somebody else is experiencing. But in order to do that, you have to contextualize it with your own experiences. There really isn't any other way for you to realistically do it, is there? Other than imagination, I suppose. You could use, you can bring imagination into it too, but imagination is always limited by the context of your life and experiences. So my point is that it's easy for us, it's natural for us, it's completely expected of any of us that we would project our own ideas onto other people and insist that those people follow our ideas of how things work because it works for us. It works for these guys over here who agree with me, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is that just because you guys agree on it or just because you think it's true doesn't mean it's going to be true for them. So I want to kind of, sort of clear away any controversy over this topic because I've come to these conclusions through some real, school of hard knocks experiences. And this is where tolerance, this is where the rubber meets the road on tolerance. Are you going to be tolerant? Are you going to be compassionate toward another human being just because they're another human being? Or are you going to insist that they have to think the way you do in order for you to show them tolerance, compassion, and understanding? That's where things get tough. And this is one of those cases in the atheist world where I've seen a lot of very, very strident, strong arguments and belief on both ends of this. And this is not the kind of thing I see too many people debating or talking about when they engage in these dogma debates with believers, right? They want to talk at the level of, the illogic of the belief rather than get down to why do you actually believe this? What is it doing for you? How does it serve your life that you have this belief? And then kind of taking some of the judgment away from that and just going, okay, you know what? I'm okay with that. And as you said, Kevin, I really don't care. Like you said, you're in the camp of I don't care what you believe, I care about what you do. And at the end of the day, that's all any of us can care about because who are we to try to police what's going on in other people's heads? When it comes to non-destructive beliefs or when it comes to beliefs that don't result in action where the person is actively going around hurting people, harming people, trying to bring about, the end of days or whatever. I mean, you get your religious extremists, of course. That's duh. I mean, I think I've acknowledged that there are, some pretty crazy religious extremists out there and that they should have a whole lot of pushback against them. But, of course, what we're pushing back against is not their belief in God or Jesus or Noah or Odin, right, or Loki or something. What we're pushing back against is the fact that they're trying to use that belief to impinge on or take away other people's right to believe, think, say what they want. And this is the social controversy of the back and forth of the fight of the extremists. So anyway, as far as the whole anti-theism thing goes, I tend to view it rather negatively because I think that it's the atheist end of the spectrum, the extreme end of the spectrum, to the religious extremists over here and the true believers and the culty guys. I think you can get that way over here with anti-theism too. Not all of them, of course, but just because you're pushing back against a belief in God or think it's that's destructive, there are cases to be made, and there are certainly points to be made that religion is destructive and it has caused harm more than it has helped. There's all kinds of anecdotes on this, and there's very little in the way of real serious sociological and maybe psychological studies on this, right? And a lot more study needs to be done on this in terms of like finding the statistical facts rather than the anecdotes. We've all got anecdotes. We've all got stories. I can tell you 10 stories for every 10 stories you want to tell me about either end of this spectrum, either end of political spectrums even, right? But again, point is we all have different experiences. We all have various reasons we believe things. I don't want to try to lump all anti-theists into one camp and say they're all extremists, they're all militant, they're all a bunch of nutcases, because that's not any more true than it is that just because somebody has religious belief, they're nutcases and extremists and crazy people. So again, spectrums and shades of gray and everything. But I thought I would comment on this a bit and give you some of my thoughts about it because I do like to push back on extremism in any form. And I think anti-theism can go there pretty quickly. Doesn't have to at all. But I think it does. And I think that does not necessarily help the cause of trying to get along. And at the end of the day, I think that's a lot more important to me than being right about an unfalsifiable claim. Because at the end of the day, anyone who's telling you that God does or doesn't exist, or that there are gods or that there are not gods, cannot prove anything they're saying one way or the other. At all. And it is, Russell's teapot does apply. You know, if you're going to assert that something is true, then you have to back it up with some evidence. I think Russell's teapot's off a little bit, in that I think it applies as much to the people who are saying there absolutely positively is no God, no way, no form, no, it's destructive, it's horrible, there cannot be this. You don't know that. You don't, right? And that's just kind of how that is. Because all of this came from somewhere. And a whole lot of people, like it or not, right or wrong, good or bad, a whole lot of people out there are not satisfied and never will be satisfied with it's just always been this way, or something came from nothing. That is not these are not concepts that human beings are comfortable with. Empirically so, not my opinion. Right? So if you are in a frame of mind that religion is destructive, that theism is inherently bad for you, I'd suggest coming up with better ways of expressing that also express some compassion, tolerance, and understanding if you want to change hearts and minds. Because the way this is going right now, I don't know that it's going the best way it could. And that's some take on that. I hope that was interesting to you guys.